name is Margaret Ann Windsor, and I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in 1941 and brought to Moulton, Alabama, given the name of a twin that was dead, Peggy Ann Dempsey, and I married a Childers. Both twins were dead. So my identity was stolen, and I grew up having to use this name, and I still do. This morning I found out, I found out about my kidnapping in late 83, after I'd been in a political campaign and flown to Larry Flint's. He did an article saying I knew who was responsible for his shooting in Lawrenceville, Georgia, on March the 6th of 78. And he talked about Larry McDonald, the U.S. Congressman doctor from Atlanta. I'd written about him, and I'd also written in the book about mind control murders and how they're done. Without getting into that anymore, it's all on YouTube, and if they don't have my Facebook shut down, my site's been stolen, I think, hijacked, kidnapped, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I was flown out to Flint's and furnished a car for a year, and all my jobs have been shut down. And I lived on the Appalachian Trail and starved and froze and all this. But anyway, someone alerted me to the fact that Franklin Roosevelt was part of my kidnapping. He appointed Joe Kennedy ambassador to England, 36 till they kicked him out in 46, and they were part of my kidnapping. They took down my father, and the reason they took him down was because he's an honest, great man. They put a 99-year seal on it, and my father was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor, an American, Catholic, and Irish. But I love my mother very much, and I love my father very much, and I'm sure they loved me. They lied. I'm talking about the United States and its Freemasons. All its presidents have been, maybe with the exception of Jimmy Carter. Maybe he was not. But you've got the Windsors that join ranks with them, the Illuminati, the Jews, and then you've got the blacks. Why haven't they told anything about this? The reason they've covered up Martin Luther King's shooting, and Mrs. King, by the way, when I had antifreeze put in me and had done the book and was thrown on the street there in Atlanta, would not speak to me, but she did. This is in 1982, all right, in November, I believe. Cold as hell, and I had no shoes. Let me put it that way, flip-flops. But she did, since I didn't move, and I was afraid they'd have me arrested or something. They have so much power and civil liberties, and I'm going to blast them now, because you've got all these blacks out in Ferguson, Missouri, and all over they have, and the Zimmerman. By the way, the Zimmerman was part of a mind control program shooting. So Zimmerman was, he should have been found not guilty. He's a victim himself. But the blacks have covered it all up. She did send Mrs. King, Coretta Scott King. She was there, downtown Atlanta at the office. She sent her assistant, they said, finally out, who took me outside to talk to me. How's that in the freezing cold? And he informed me, he said, well, we know about mind control and chips and all that. And he mentioned Rhodesia, South Africa. And a friend of his who was a doctor who had been chipped in a root canal, and he went flying into the wall and busted his head and everything in it, because you can have so much momentum and the synchronicity and everything. But anyway, I didn't get his, and then I was just, goodbye, so long. It was later I found out about my kidnapping in 83, so I put together some of the things like, yeah, and I went to his office too. He was mayor. Oh my God, please, I'm on this. Don't let me forget. Reverend Andrew Young. Oh, they wouldn't speak to me. Oh no, I was in the office. Then I find out, this is the same time in '82. Then I find out that he was a part of the UN ambassador to Africa, I believe, South Africa. No, he was ambassador to the UN. Excuse me, by Jimmy Carter. And so they went in there, the United States, and the blacks, they brokered with the Kennedys, is what they did. They sold me out. They sold Great Britain out. You know, George Wallace was shot. And I'm going to say it again. I like George Wallace. He didn't, like a lot of other people, he didn't sell his soul, all right? He was with Lina Dempsey, who was the mother of the twins, and was the one that went along with my kidnapping and tortured the hell out of me all my life. And I called her mother. I don't know that I ever did, really, because somehow I knew I hated the woman's guts. She was a psychopath. But anyway, she was with George Wallace in Laurel, Maryland, when he was shot. And I could give you a lot of other connections, and I have on YouTube and Facebook. But George Wallace didn't like her. That wasn't a connection. She shoved herself into his campaign. George Wallace was a nice man. He told the truth and he couldn't be bought, just like this man right here, my father. And then Proctor married Wallace Simpson. Roosevelt and all of them covered it up. Now then, I just was found out, I won't mention, but this is Roosevelt, 1934, October the 19th. He was here in Roanoke. He visited the VA hospital, and I think the Roanoke Star, if I'm not mistaken. But this, then he helped in my kidnapping. This is him with my Uncle George, who's illegal, in 1939, the year I'm born, and they're planning my kidnapping. They're this sorry sot that people like Roosevelt and the Kennedys. Well, it's not all right to kidnap me. They've gotten away with it, but somewhere along the line, I hope they pay. But now, I wanted to get that on this morning. This is Timothy McVeigh, who was chipped by the military. And he was put to death. He was programmed. He's a puppet. And I don't think that's all right. He was a member of your military. How many more have they chipped and are puppets? But that's the clue to a lot of the weaponry that's going on now is mind control. But I guess that's all I wanted to say at the moment, if I live so long. But this sorry man, the FDR was here in Roanoke in '34, and that's where I end up in Roanoke in '86, living on the Appalachian Trail and telling everybody all about this. And by the way, I wanted to mention Anastasia, who's a cousin of mine, Tsar Nicholas, and his family were burned and killed. And the Jews, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Bilderbergers, and then my own family that's the same kin as me get into my kidnapping and taking up for the people, the New World Order. And Obama is a member of it. He even stated it on YouTube. Now then, this is going to go out, so I guess that's it. But Anastasia was murdered by the Blue Ridge Mental Health here. She was in Charlottesville, where University of Virginia is, and I end up about 60 miles from her. I was in the Hustler car driving it in May the 4th of '84 when she was killed. And her husband was Professor Monahan at the University of Virginia, who did all he could to try to get her out, and they killed her right here at Charlottesville. She was on a farm. They had a farm in Scottsville, a few miles from Charlottesville. She was my cousin, and I end up here in '86. There's so many connections to the murders and stuff that I have told about, and I didn't know some of the connections till lately, like this one. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that.